What do you think's specifically driving you to win?
There's no one or anything that I'm competing against. It's definitely an internal thing. I also don't feel like I have anything to prove per se. I think it's a fire within me to prove something to myself, not to anyone else.
What are your thoughts on side hustle?
I think side hustles are underrated, and I think they are a fantastic way to test not only a product market fit, but test yourself, test the grit, and test your appetite to work at a level that you probably didn't believe was possible.
When you're dealing with, like, let's say, problematic situations, what do you do?
So I've built a lot of grit and resilience, and I've learnt to move through the shit, right? The biggest barrier to business is letting a problem become a full barrier that stops you from doing anything else.
Why do you think you are so motivated?
That's a really good question. I think no, thanks for this.
Yeah, cheers to Sultana.
Yeah, cheers. Have you tried one yet? I hope you tried it chilled.
I tried it last week.
Chilled?
It's delicious, not chilled.
Yeah, you need it
Is
chilled.
it supposed to be chilled?
No, it's not. It's sold ambient, but it tastes better chilled. I like it in the chilled drinks.
Oh, wow.
fridge.
Okay, I didn't know that.
It's got more potassium in it than a hydration sachet. You know that, right?
I didn't know that.
There you go.
Okay.
Natural source of potassium. No more Baroccas, hydrolytes.
It's delicious.
Yeah, it's good.
You said earlier you just got into Woolies.
Yes.
Talk about Woolies.
Woolies Metro.
That's huge.
We're starting with Woolies Metro. It's probably one of the biggest wins for the business, for sure. And it actually came through a really interesting route. It was a woman who reached out to me on LinkedIn asking if I'd be interested in fractional COO roles for Soltonic. So she was almost, pitching to me.
Wow.
But she was the general manager of Woolies for growth as a segment of Woolworths. And I went and took this meeting with her in Palm Beach, and I was just talking to her about the business, and she asked about Woolworths, and I said, I haven't actually gone there yet. I don't know if it's too early. I don't know if I'm ready. I've been focusing really on independence and growing out other segments. And she said, no. Woolies Metro, it's the premium customer. It's in all the metro areas. Why don't I just intro you to the general manager, the managing director of Woolworths Metro? And I didn't think anything of it. And then the next day she followed up, introed me in, and straight away he replied saying, I'd love to meet you in real life. And I preface in real life because it's quite rare to get an in-person meeting these days with, a very busy senior executive. And I don't know how many SKUs are in Woolworths Metro, but at least 20,000 different products. So they can't be meeting with every supplier, if not, particularly not potential new suppliers. And so then I met with him. He's been at Woolies for 18 years. And then the head of merchandise as well came in, and he'd been there for 20 years. Huge tenure. Pitched them, told them the whole story. And we're in a blackout period before Christmas. So Woolworths doesn't take any new lines. The next day, they emailed me saying, we're interested in pushing this through and let's do it. So now I've been working with the category managers to urgently get a big vendor supplier setup done, which isn't easy for the big supermarkets, and we're looking to launch before Christmas.
That's fucking huge.
I'm super pumped. Just the name, I think, when you're a product-based business, you're run by the duopolies in Australia. It's quite hard actually to grow volume unless you go into one of those majors. And so just having that foot in the door and having that opportunity is massive.
So this lady, fractional COO reached out to you.
Yeah, so she left Woolworths to start a startup, which is actually an epic business idea. It consolidates all different grocery stores based on a meal plan budget that you put in based on your health preferences, and tells you basically where to shop, how to shop, if you want to shop at the same place or you want to go to multiple different places. But she's looking to support other businesses on the side. So she said, hey, do you need a COO? And I said, potentially not right now because I'm a bit early, but let's meet for coffee. Then it just shows that, take the coffee, even if you think that it's going to not be anything.
So do you think you'll hire her at one stage, or will you recognise her for that introduction?
I want to.
Yeah.
I wanted to wait to see how I went with, pitching it in and to see if I got it first. But God, at the very minimum, she's getting a lifetime worth of Soltonic and a huge bunch of flowers.
Yeah.
But she's on my radar massively. And would I recommend her to other founder friends and startup friends that are in the right stage? 100%. And I think a lot of things, if it's not the right time now, it could be at some point down the track.
Thank you to LinkedIn.
Thank you, LinkedIn. The power of LinkedIn is
Yeah.
crazy.
I had a question. So have you started prospecting outbound where, let's say, you're searching people who have previously worked at, let's say, like a Woolies, a Whole Foods or whatever, or they currently work there, and going outbound them, with your pitch or trying to get a meeting? Have you tried that approach?
I have tried that approach. It usually isn't to contact them through LinkedIn. It's usually to stalk them on LinkedIn, figure out who they are, what their history is, and then guess their email address,
Okay.
and then email them because it's very easy to guess an email address. So I use it as almost just a stalking tool.
I love that. There is a website, I forget, I'm having a mind blank, where you pay a subscription.
Yes, and you can get their email address
works
and their
well.
contact details. I know.
It's legit.
It is legit. And it's crazy that I know one of my other founder friends, she has this amazing product called Clutch Glue. It's a glue that replaces fashion tape. And she launched into CVS, the biggest pharmacy chain in America. She's an Australian girl, 26, just by guessing the buyer's email address, basically through what you just said. Exactly, and just pitching it that way.
I love it. Do you drink coffee?
I do.
So I was in, like we were talking earlier, I was in California recently, and I don't drink coffee. I drink decaf, which doesn't give me the buzz.
But you like the taste of coffee, that's why.
Like the taste. It ruins my energy levels bad. And when I was in California, I did have a coffee one day, and it just ruined me for the day. Like 1 or 2 o'clock, it just smashed me. And then the next morning I was in bed and I was looking at my diary when I got back to Sydney. I was looking at this week specifically, and I was like, okay, I'm meeting Sophie. And then I was thinking, like, is there a product? Because like there's people that drink coffee and they get, they don't, like their energy shifts. Like they're not as productive. They get more tired.
The cortisol spikes.
Yeah, like there's something that goes on, and it affects me probably more than a lot of people, but I'm sure it affects a lot of coffee drinkers who love it. And then I was thinking, is there like a product where you could drink something before you have coffee, which maintained good energy levels?
To mitigate the spike.
The spike.
That's the pre-coffee drink.
Yes.
The pre-drink, okay.
I wanted to just highlight it to you.
Well, I love, obviously, the concept of a pre-drink, as you know. And it's so interesting thinking about that. On trends, matcha is having a real moment right now. And obviously it originated from Japan, but it's huge in Korea as well. But that is the whole purpose of drinking a matcha, is that it's long-standing release of caffeine, and it's based on green tea leaves rather than the coffee bean. But I guess a lot of people don't like the taste of matcha because they think it tastes like dirt.
Yes.
But if you're saying this would be specific for a coffee consumer who wants the taste of coffee,
Yes.
but can't handle the effects of it.
Yeah.
I don't mind that. There's probably something in there.
I think so. Anyway, I just wanted to float it.
Okay, thank you. God, coming on here, getting business ideas for free.
I was
God.
just brainstorming. But
My lucky
talking
day.
about new products. So you've got a new product?
I do. I have a new product launching, which is crazy. Actually, I haven't announced it, so I don't know when this podcast is coming out. You can tell me.
I'm not sure. Maybe 3 weeks.
Oh, that's fine. Okay. It should be landed by then. I've been soft launching it to obviously my friends, and my boyfriend's been drinking it every night for literally 8 months. He loves it. So basically it is an apple cider vinegar based drink using Korean ginseng and Korean pear to mitigate the ACV harshness. It's using an award-winning apple cider vinegar from Korea that's processed in a unique Korean way, which is where we use fresh apple to ferment the vinegar over a very long extended period of time. So it's fantastic for digestion, reduces the acidity in your stomach, and it's being marketed as a post-drinking tonic the morning after, but it will really sit in that health tonic category for daily use. So a lot of my friends drink ACV in the morning just for digestion, for glucose management, and it's very harsh. You even if you dilute it with water, it's still very harsh on the teeth, and it's not that great for you. So having it in this kind of easy to digest 100 ml pouch, it's got a full tablespoon of ACV in it. It's the right amount that you should be having for the day.
I love that. The packaging you showed me earlier looks sick. The design's beautiful.
The packaging is so sexy. Our designer, Benny, he did an insane job. I would say this is just the best packaging I've ever seen. It's matte black, black lid. It's the inverse of the current. So it's silver and black, and it's just chic. Like I just want to have it around, like in my handbag, you know?
Yeah, it looks hot.
Yeah.
You said just earlier your boyfriend was trying it, when the product, like especially even with this Soul Tonic product and this new one, like where do you get to a point where you're tasting and you're like, hey, it's right? Like how do you get to that point?
The ACV product took a lot of sampling, so much, because the ratio, because ginseng, red ginseng, Korean ginseng, it's a root and it tastes like dirt. It's awful. It has incredible medicinal properties, and that's why it's in a lot of tonics for a range of things. But it's very hard to balance the flavours and to find that balance between something that's really good for you and something that tastes good. Because if it really tastes that bad, people just won't buy it.
Yes.
But it still has to have that kick. So this is the longest sampling I've ever done. It took about a year of sampling. And when I say my boyfriend's been drinking it, he was drinking the whole sampling process. And he didn't know what ACV was. He didn't understand the concept of drinking apple cider vinegar for health. He thought it was something to chuck on a salad dressing.
Yeah.
And he would start drinking it after dinner when he felt a bit bloated, and instantly his bloat went away. And I know that sounds crazy, but he said it. He was like, I'm not bloated. And he would crave, it was like a witch hunt for the samples of the ACV product. He was like, where are they? Where are they? I need it. I feel gross, blah, blah, blah. And so he, as a man who never had, consumed ACV, he was just the perfect test case for this product working.
A year of sampling, that's heavy.
Yeah, it's a lot. It was so much. There was so many times where I was like, I can't do this.
So good. Food stars. So you won that in April?
TV, baby, yeah. So it aired in April, but it filmed the prior April.
Oh,
so
wow.
I waited a year before it actually came to air.
Oh, wow. So at what point did you say to yourself, hey, I'm going to enroll and go through a process to try and be selected to be on this show?
Yeah, so I didn't apply.
Okay.
Soul Tonic was launched in November of 2022 as a side hustle, right? And then in February of 2023, so just a few months after, there was a DM in the Soul Tonic account from an Endomol Shine, who was a production company, I guess scout producer person, who said, hey, I'm scouting for people to be on this new show with Gordon Ramsay and Janine Ellis. Think Shark Tank meets The Apprentice. You need to have a food or beverage business. There's a cash prize of $250,000. One of the highest cash prizes for the amount of time you have to be on the show ever. And would you be interested in auditioning? And I obviously have my full-time job. And I said no. And then all my friends were like, you're an idiot. Just at least practice your pitch on them. You've had this business for 3 months. It's a side hustle. Go in. So I went in, pitched, went through another round, pitched, went through another round, pitched. And then they were like, we want to select you to be on the starting 30 to be on the first episode. And then the starting 30 moved to 14 after the first episode. So 16 people get eliminated. And then you stay on the show, elimination rounds, blah, blah, blah.
Solid.
Till 2 people left.
So they went outbound to you and were you nervous going through this process?
I was pretty nervous because I had to take annual leave from my full-time job, and even that dynamic was quite difficult, saying that I was taking annual leave to film a show for my side hustle so early on, where I wasn't clear on whether the product was even going to be successful at that point, because it'd been, only 2.5 months of it in market, and it was in, say, 10 stores. So that dynamic frightened me. And then, of course, the fear of reality TV show and the unknown of editing and how you're going to perceive yourself. And someone who'd had zero TV experience, I didn't even know how I would look on TV.
Yeah.
So I was nervous, but once you're in it, you feel like you're in a simulation, and they make you feel like the worst thing in the world would be to be eliminated. So my competitive side definitely came out, and I thought, once I'm in it, I'm going to win.
Yeah, and you crushed it.
And I won.
The funding, so $250K, the mentorship with Janine?
Janine Ellis, yep. So that I see her monthly at her house.
What's the impact been from, let's say, funding, mentorship to date to, the growth of where you are?
So the funding, it was a cash prize, tax-free, which is incredible. So no equity was given away. So, which is an amazing result versus your typical, say, Shark Tank's Dragon's Den. So Janine has been very, very helpful in the sense that her wealth of experience makes my problems feel quite small and validated. And that's probably been the biggest unlock, is that, I might have this big legal battle that I'm going through, and she's done 1,000 of them. And she normalizes really scary things that I can't necessarily empathize with anyone else in my network about.
Got it.
So having her as that figure, it just has made me ease through the process of scaling a business a little bit better.
I love it. You're bootstrapped, right?
Completely bootstrapped.
And you do you plan soon on getting outside capital?
So I've been going through the rounds with investors that have reached out to me just for the experience at the moment. I don't want to raise. So it's twofold. I don't want to raise when I absolutely need to raise. That's the worst time to raise, right? Because it's out of absolute desperation. But on the other side, I don't want to raise too early until I got the valuation up a little bit. I think I was quite smart in the sense that I stayed in my full-time job quite a long time, so I was able to circulate a lot of my income back into the business, and I have got it at this place where I'm scaling it at a sustainable rate so I can manage the cash flow. That being said, product-based businesses are super cash heavy, and once you land one massive contract, that first PO can wipe you out. But then again, there's trade financing, there's other options as well. I think if a big international opportunity comes up that's larger than what I can manage right now, then it's something I'll definitely look at.
For people listening to this who are working full-time, like you were 6 months ago, which I didn't know, that's crazy. They've got an idea, right? Like they want to do something.
Yes.
Like you did. Like, what are your thoughts on side hustle?
I think side hustles are underrated, and I think they are a fantastic way to test not only a product market fit, but test yourself, test the grit, and test your appetite to work at a level that you probably didn't believe was possible. I think not everyone should be an entrepreneur, and I really would recommend not everyone to go into it. And I think a side hustle is a perfect way to kind of have the best of both worlds. I think if you went full-time in when it was too early, the risks are just so high. But if you can't operate at a level with a full-time job and a side hustle, then you probably can't operate it at a job where you're growing and scaling a business either.
Makes sense. So you were working previously, you worked, was it EY?
I started at EY when I was 20 years old, so just out of uni, and then moved to Moet Hennessy and then Red Bull.
So like 3 powerhouses, right?
Yes.
Before you started Soltonic on the side, like did you know that you were built for entrepreneurship at any stage, or were you in that like employment 9 to 5 kind of mindset?
It was an interesting one. During my 20s, I didn't think that I would be an entrepreneur. However, my whole childhood was just entrepreneurship. I was always trying to find the next thing to create and sell to my peers. So in year 10, I created a tie-dye business and I sold it through business studies. Business studies was my top. I topped that in year 11 and year 12, honestly, by doing nothing. I didn't do anything. I just learned it. I just understood the basic fundamentals of business. It came quite naturally to me. And I started a bunch of businesses early uni. Yeah. But then once I started my corporate job, I didn't really think about it again because I was just so almost caught up in the corporate hustle and grind and going into the city and the Friday night drinks and fitting into just what I thought I had to do. And it wasn't till COVID where it was a circuit breaker, where we weren't going into the city, we weren't going out for drinks. And I was sat in my own kind of bubble thinking, what am I doing? What am I interested in? What am I curious about? And that curiosity came back.
That's amazing. It can get a bit brain numbing. Hey, like I came from a corporate world before I got into entrepreneurship. And like, you're right, you get caught up with, I guess, the osmosis of the same group of people who are doing the same thing. They aren't really thinking laterally, creatively, right?
No, I lost the creative side of my brain completely.
Yeah, it's insane. So how did Soltonic start? Because I mean, I was telling you how I had an awful experience in Korea last year. I did it wrong.
Mind blown.
Yeah, I did it wrong. I'm going to do it better next time. But
it actually makes me feel sick
so
to hear this.
So you obviously went to Korea for your first time, just for what reasons? And then you obviously, I'm assuming, fell in love with it, right?
So it actually started with becoming obsessed with Korean skincare first and kind of importing Korean skincare during COVID, and then looking at the ingredients in the Korean skincare, and a lot of the ingredients were quite natural, and then starting to become obsessed with Korean culture and daily self-care rituals and looking at them as a population. And I was strictly ordering Korean clothes, really beautiful clothes, just fresh, really amazing price point, well made. And I was looking at these images on Instagram and looking at these TikToks of Korean people. And I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, you look beautiful.
Yeah.
And then because I've been in beverage, I started looking at what they were consuming. And they have this category that contributes over $500 million a year to the economy, which is just these natural functional health tonics that they consume pre and post alcohol, they consume for general well-being, they consume when they're sick. And I couldn't really see the same in the Australian market, and I couldn't really see the beautiful ingredients being utilised in the way that they have for centuries. And so then I went to Korea after that point. And then I fell in love even more.
For like a specific trip to look at bringing this to life?
I went for a specific trip to actually visit my manufacturer that I had been able to contact all online, because Korea had very strict COVID regulations, and it was actually really hard for me to go on that trip. Full stop. You had to wear a mask. You had to get COVID tests everywhere on the borders.
Oh, wow.
It was really intense, even though we were kind of out of that COVID bit. So I did all my business plan I did virtually. I engaged the Korean Trade Association, which sits below the Korean government, and they gave me a translator. And based on my business plan, they connected me with manufacturers, and multiple, like so many. It was actually quite hard to filter through them because most of them didn't speak Korean at all, English at all.
Were you worried about getting scammed or anything?
Well, I did get scammed.
Okay.
And I've actually just won a lawsuit against one of the guys that scammed me from back 2 years ago.
Good on you.
So he stole the designs, the initial Sultonic designs, and trademarked the Sultonic designs, the name, the logo, everything in South Korea, granted. But I can't have a South Korean trademark of a product that I'm trying to scale to the world be there. So I've had Korean lawyers be fighting the IP case.
Wow, and you won.
I just won, and now I'm trademarked. Thank you. So yes, it's very easy to get scammed. Young Australian girl, doesn't speak a lick of the language, didn't even know what I was looking for really. I knew I wanted to bring a piece of history to Australia, and I wanted a partner that could process ingredients in the way that was innovative and new, and we could develop a product together. But otherwise I had no clue what was going on. I didn't even know the regions.
Yeah. What was the selection process when you've obviously got a manufacturer now?
Yes.
Like, how did you go about like engaging or making the right decision?
The right decision, that was hard. I had to trust my gut in the end, because I had a list of things I needed, of course, and a lot of it was product-based, and it was around the formulation and what we could develop together. Yeah. And another part was how we could partner to build a brand where they were part of the brand. I didn't want it to be a transactional manufacturing relationship. I wanted a partner. And because that's how I felt with working at Red Bull and Moet Hennessy. There were these beautiful partners in like the Maisons in the Champagne region for like Veuve Clicquot and the Madame Clicquot story and the Clicquot house, and same with the Dom Perignon house. It was all rooted in history. And Red Bull has an incredible history as well. And if I was going to create a brand, that's what I wanted. I wanted an essence of the culture. So that was a big part. So I had to understand not only their manufacturing capabilities, but their story and their history. And the one I went with, his history is incredible. Like, he's been developing this extraction method for 3 generations, passed through the family. And we're tapping into that to create this bespoke formula. He gives back to the local community all the time. He only employs elderly women who wouldn't otherwise have a job in the manufacturing facility. It's very community-based. And now I've been there 4 times. He takes me around the town. I go to all the hotspots. I've met all the people, his whole family, his wife, his kids.
Wow.
He's come to Sydney. He came to Sydney just 3 months after I launched.
Wow.
To see it in store. Like, that's not a transactional manufacturing relationship.
Your intuition has paid off.
Yes.
How many units did you have to purchase in this first order?
The minimum order was 50,000.
Wow.
So scary.
Wow. So you took a big punt.
So scary. And I got so much wrong with that original lot of packaging.
Yeah.
None of it was retail ready, meaning there was the outer carton was not barcoded. There was no branding on it. All it was literally a pouch in 90 unit cartons. And at that time, I didn't realize that a retailer might not want to take 90 units at a time. I just left it up to them to package it up in the way that they saw fit. Because I just didn't know.
Sure.
Coming from finance to strategy, you're just so up in the clouds almost, making larger investment decisions. You're not thinking about the entire circle, like the holistic view of the full supply chain even.
That's crazy. So EY, Moet Hennessy, Red Bull, do you feel like your knowledge, your like skill development there, like prepared you for what you're doing now? Like, do you feel like there was something there specifically that was very useful, or anything that comes to mind?
Stakeholder management. It's interesting. The things that prepared me were all my soft skills versus hard technical skills. Yes, I probably got a little bit better at financial modelling, fine, but you actually don't do that much financial modelling when you're running a business. A little bit here and there for, retailer stuff, but not to the degree of what I was doing there. And you move at a much faster rate in your own business. So it was all those soft skills, being able to communicate with C-suite execs, be able to put forward my case, be able to pitch for things internally. That was what I learned. And I was never one for hierarchy and I was never scared of them, but being in those big companies and not being scared of the executives in them just made me realize I could kind of do anything.
So the pitching seems to have helped you, like
The
and
pitching
the confidence,
helped. Confidence,
communication.
I guess respect as well.
Yeah.
Being able to communicate with people in a way that is respectful and
Yes.
is professional has helped me.
What about growth? So you're in New Zealand now and you're going into you're in the US and then you're moving to the US, yeah?
Yes. So in the US, in a very, very, very small way. So I'm in some beauty stores in Manhattan and Brooklyn. They are viral K-beauty stores, actually. And so there's a real K-wave going on, particularly in the US.
K-wave.
No, it's insane. People love it. People are just obsessed with Korean everything. So this beauty store reached out to us 6 months ago and said, hey, we're interested in this product. So I sent them samples and they go, yeah, cool. Like, let's range it. And ever since then, I've just been air freighting. Honestly, it feels like every 3 weeks to them, which is just crazy. Just being in a beauty store, I'm not in any beauty stores in Australia. Australia is quite backward in what we range in our stores. Grocery stores, strictly really grocery. Liquor stores, kind of really liquor. Pharmacy, it's quite, there's a little bit of a broad range. But in America, you can go into a grocery store and there could be sick T-shirts hanging. There could be cameras. They're more diverse and open to other SKUs going in. And I think they're also more open to brand. They buy into brand a lot more. They see something they like, they buy it. Australia, New Zealand, we have to be convinced a little bit more. We need to educate. We just want to be a little bit skeptical for ages and then we'll come around to it.
Yeah.
But the New Zealand launch has been really lovely. That happened in the last month into the Harris Farm of New Zealand called Faro, and then heaps of liquor stores now, some online retailers, and just some really good traction.
Love that.
There.
What's the plan for the US, right? Because it's such a big market. Obviously, it seems like you had a lot of like people coming into you inbound, like for opportunities, right? Like, how do you plan on attacking and scaling and just getting in, like landing someone big like Whole Foods or something?
So Whole Foods is the end goal, and it's quite a similar strategy to Australia in the sense that you need a lot of runs on the board with independents first. So I'm going to be focusing. I look at the US as heaps and heaps of different Australias in there, lots of different countries. So California to me is the size of Australia.
That's true.
So when I'm looking at California, I'm going to be looking at a localized strategy, moving into different parts and trying to win smaller independents and kind of build local community around the product. We're quite lucky in the sense that California has the second largest population of Korean people that's not in Korea.
Wow.
I think in LA specifically.
Wow.
So they understand the concept. They understand what this product is, what it means, the cultural relevance. So I think that's a really good place to start. And I'm working with a few people there at the moment to build out what that strategy can look like.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think Cali's got like 34 million. It's got more than Australia.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy. You just realize Australia. Someone said to me the other day, they said, if you are moderately successful in Australia, you'll be very successful in the US because Australia is a really tough market to crack.
It is.
Especially just generally, to be honest, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, it can be really tough.
Yeah.
Particularly if you're moving a product around the country, you've obviously got limitations with the geography.
Yeah.
It's very expensive. The freight is unbelievable. Every time I look at, moving a truck to Perth, sometimes it's not even worth the stock going there because of the freight cost.
Everyone's skeptical.
Tall
poppy.
We've got tall poppy syndrome. It can be really hard to navigate, particularly if you don't have inspiring, ambitious people around you and you might have grown up in a circle where this isn't the norm, going out on your own or doing something a little bit different. And that can be really jarring because you can feel like you're at odds. You're almost choosing between your business and your friends. And that can be really, really hard.
What were you saying earlier about LinkedIn offline around the tall poppy stuff?
So LinkedIn have an issue and have identified that tall poppy syndrome is actually impacting people posting on LinkedIn because people are scared to talk about their success and therefore they're not posting as much as they would expect on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn have done a big campaign around tall poppy syndrome. I was actually part of it by doing a TikTok video for them, trying to debunk tall poppy and trying to just encourage people to support each other because all we've really got is each other, right?
Yes. Have you experienced tall poppy?
So I think I have, But I think I was thrown into such intense environments in the last year that I've got some incredible coping mechanisms for it that I haven't let it affect me. But I definitely think I have, especially in the early days when I was launching Soul Tonic. I definitely heard the whispers and I heard the people talking about me and I heard the people saying all the things about it's a silly idea, it's stupid, what's she doing? Especially when you're in, a bit of an eastern suburbs social scene.
Yeah.
It can be a bit daunting. I mean, I love I'm a very social person. I get a lot of energy from other people. I'm a natural extrovert, but gosh, there's nothing worse than feeling like the people in the corner are just whispering about you.
Yeah, it's tough.
But then when I went on the TV show, right, it just all unraveled because I was on a national show. So it was like, well, I'm out there now. I'm just going to have to roll with it. So now it's actually been easier. And I think people seeing me on the show kind of made them stop because they were like, oh, shit, look what she's done now. There's nothing else to talk about.
Did that build some resilience for you, that show?
So much resilience, so much grit. Gordon and Janine are tough. Sometimes Janine, gosh, God bless her, she can be tougher than Gordon. Everyone thinks Gordon's the tough one, but, Janine's, she can lay the word on you too.
Yeah, and her son's doing some cool stuff, hey?
So her son, Ollie, the very, very impressive family actually, but actually the Alice family, herself, Janine and Jeff, they bought Yochi a few years ago and they've really scaled and brought back basically a frozen yogurt revolution.
Wow. And
Ollie is a big part of that, the son, in the marketing side, which has been fantastic. If you look at the Yochi TikTok and you look at the rise of Yochi, a lot of people are going on Yochi dates. That's a full thing. They're calling it a third place, which is a place that you can go to that's, not a bar, not a club. It's somewhere else that's safe.
Yes.
And, even if your Yochi does cost you $20 with all the toppings, it's probably cheaper than that cocktail next door.
Let's talk about marketing. So are you guys jamming harder on like TikTok versus Instagram, or like what's pumping the most for you?
So I was really conflicted because I was not an early adopter of TikTok. When I went on the show, I was told that I should build out my personal brand on TikTok. So I've been focusing on my personal TikTok more than the brand TikTok. And only just recently have I got an incredible girl on TikTok. Please follow Soul Tonic TikTok. Chessie is amazing. She's a Melbourne 24-year-old. She just gets it. She's a native and she's been producing some incredible content she's already, done about 10 viral videos. And just through that alone, I'm out on the streets and people are telling me that they're seeing the TikTok videos and it's the cheapest, most organic form of marketing. Wow. And those TikTok videos are now being reconstituted a little bit into Instagram, but our Instagram grid is very curated. It's very, everything's shot in Korea, shot on the streets of Seoul. It's very beautiful, but we are trying to play around a little bit with our content types at the moment.
Instagram, do you get traction there?
We get a little bit. We're definitely, Instagram's our home. That's what we get. We're kind of a group of millennials running this, like Benny as well. He's older than me and he's not an adopter on TikTok, so we never really understood it.
Yeah.
We are getting traction there for sure, and a lot of our inquiries come through there. It's our way to speak to our audience. We do a lot of collaborations through there, but I see the future being on TikTok.
What's your view on personal brand versus business brand?
I love this question. And I actually just spoke at South by Southwest on a panel talking about personal branding. That was the entire conversation. Personal branding has been the biggest unlock for me. I've gotten so many business deals through my personal TikTok, through my personal Instagram, through going on podcasts, through LinkedIn posts, just speaking about things, not just that directly business related, but a deep dive into my personality as well, and to have a little bit of a voice and connect with an audience that I may not have otherwise. I think if you're a business owner and you're not building out a personal brand, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Totally
for
agree.
sure.
Totally
and you're just losing potential deals in my mind.
So you started building your personal brand last year when the show started,
yes,
when they mentioned that to you. Did you, I guess people listening to this as well, who haven't started that, they could be a founder and building the business brand versus their personal brand. I know what it was like for me. It was hard. It was hard for me to get started. I'd care what people would think.
Cringe mountain, I call it.
Didn't like seeing myself. I was like,
it's so embarrassing.
Yeah.
It is so embarrassing at the beginning, but once you start doing it and I guarantee you, if you're going to start with 0 followers, and until you get a few thousand, you're probably going to be second guessing every single piece of content you put up.
Yes.
But just remember, every single person started. somewhere. Like you have to start.
You have to start.
You just have to. It doesn't matter. No one, I think in this creator economy and more people doing it, it is lessening the burden a little bit more. 5 years ago, honestly, it would have been my worst nightmare to speak to the camera. Can you imagine? I couldn't.
The worst.
Now it's just so beneficial for the business. And also I feel really empowered to be able to talk about things that aren't necessarily so business related.
Yes.
So on TikTok, I thought I had to be behind the scenes of the business, business owner, female entrepreneur. That was my whole personality. And then it was actually my mum. She follows me on TikTok, and she said, "So if you're so funny and like lighthearted, and you've always got something to say that's not business related." She was like, "I don't see any of that like lightness on your TikTok, or you're never making jokes. Like that's so weird because you in real life versus you on TikTok seems quite different." And I was like, "Shit, that's a really good point, Mum. Like, I think I need to show some other sides of my personality, a little bit more depth, but depth in a way that is relatable and shows a bit of lightness, which I think is quite important as well. Not everything has to be so serious all the time."
Yeah, it's good to get that feedback. Did you then implement and start becoming a bit more?
I did.
Yep, and started to get better traction?
I definitely had more people approach me. I have a lot of younger females that reach out who are thinking about starting something, or even other people who are a little bit older who have started something and want to touch base. I think I definitely put out more. It's kind of scary because I put out more of me, meaning that it was at risk. I'm a little bit more vulnerable. So if people don't like the content they're seeing, they're not liking the real me.
Yes.
Versus before, it was a little bit of a facade. It was just a certain section of me. And if they didn't like that, fine. That's just one part of me. But what I found is that I'm connecting with more and more people through this, I guess, strategy. But I don't really have a proper strategy for my personal brand. It's really just what feels right to me at the time.
I totally agree with you about personal brand. Like I only started.
You've been quite good at your personal brand.
I started 6 months ago.
Really?
When I sold my last company 7 years ago, I didn't have Facebook. So I had a deactivated account. I only started Instagram properly about 7 months ago. And so it's been a journey for me. But I was resonating with what you said around you doing yourself a disservice, I think you said, because I look at Jake Paul, Logan Paul, know their names, Mr. Beast, Tony Robbins. You don't know their companies. Some of their companies.
That's a good point.
Tony Robbins has got 56 companies. No one knows them. No one knows them. And I think he's been doing that for a long time. But I think where it's fully going is it's going to be Sophie Hood, Sultanic, blah, blah. And they're going to know the person versus the company. That's where I think it's fully going.
Which I would prefer, because companies are going to shift and change, and you could redirect the company into something else.
Yeah.
But what can remain constant is you. And you can connect with people in a different way than your company. The company, you just see so many companies that they end up becoming a beast of their own, and you almost lose control of them, especially if they scale too fast or something. But if you've still got yourself and your values and your morals and your connections, then you'll always be happy.
True.
That's so interesting. You started a personal brand so soon.
Yeah, it was
really grown for you.
I've always just built businesses and tried to build the business and not myself. And I was like, I'm doing the wrong thing now. I've actually, so it was a bit of a shift.
Speaking about what you just said before, another example of that, and I don't know if many people know this, but of course everyone knows Gordon Ramsay.
Yes.
But does anyone know that he has probably 250 businesses? He has so many plateware, glassware. I think he has 10 different wines. All of these, so many, and obviously the restaurants and the blah, blah, blah. But people know him, his face, his personality.
It's so true.
So no one knows he's got an insane, he's an entrepreneur more than he's a chef, big time.
Do you find the shifting gears back with TikTok, the algo is better than Instagram for organic, or do you feel maybe it's just a different audience for you, or what's that?
I find it much better. I find the likelihood of connecting with like-minded people much easier, and the ability to gain more traction much better. And every brand deal I've done has come through TikTok. Nothing has ever come through Instagram for me for a personal brand.
Wow. You mentioned earlier you're extroverted. It seems like you are hustling and meeting people. I guess for anyone listening to this who's looking to network, what do you do to get in front of people, have interesting conversations, network, just, I guess, build pipeline with opportunity? Is there anything specifically you do, or?
I definitely try to, as much as we're online and as much as I'm posting on TikTok and I'm reaching a broader audience, I really, really still focus on those in-person moments, because like I said, with the Woolies deal, I don't think that would have ever happened had we just had a back and forth on LinkedIn. I had to have gone and met her for coffee. So I think both inbound and outbound, but I get asked to go to coffee a lot. And it's sometimes really hard to prioritize who I should be meeting and who I shouldn't. And sometimes I definitely ask people as well. And let me just tell you, the best deals and things for my career have come from the people that you wouldn't expect it, and things come back around. And I am never going into a meeting or a coffee catch up or a networking session thinking I'm going to get something immediately. I'm thinking, how can I build rapport with someone that could support me in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? And that's how I look at things. And if you look at that immediate gratification, you're probably never going to be happy.
Yes.
So I would just focus on going to those networking sessions, reaching out for the coffee. If you think someone's doing something interesting, reach out to them. Because if you don't reach out to them, someone else will. And it's not weird reaching out to people anymore.
That's so true.
It's actually kind of cool. You know,
so true.
But I spoke about this at the South by Southwest personal branding thing. If you're going to reach out to someone, don't just reach out and say, hey, can I pick your brain? Can I get coffee? Say, hey, I love what you're doing for these reasons.
Yes.
I'm looking at doing X. Give them a bit of some context, some summary. What are you trying to get as well, so that they can come into the session thinking about it and thinking about you already. Because it's really hard when, you know, you've got 10 people just reaching out saying, can I pick your brain? It can be quite exhausting.
You would have built some great relationships at Moet Hennessy and Red Bull. Have you been able to leverage anything from there?
That's a great question. So at Moet Hennessy, my commercial director was a guy called Scott, and so he ran the whole commercial team. And then he left Moet Hennessy to be the commercial director of L'Oreal. 3 months into launching the business, Scott and I have each other on Instagram, and I was obviously just an analyst when I was at Moet Hennessy. I was only 25. He reached out to me saying, hey, Soph, I'm seeing Salt Tonic pop up in all of my neighbouring grocery stores. He lives in Randwick, Bronte area. And I was like, yeah, like, haha, it's this thing like I've launched on the side. And he goes, can I call you about this? Like, this is quite interesting. So I get on this 1 hour call with him and I talk about what I'm doing. I talk about the scalability of the product, you know, the history of it, and how a lot of what I'd learned at Moet Hennessy had inspired me to create a product rooted in history. And he said, I've just quit L'Oreal. I'm looking at doing freelance work. And I had a deal on the table from this other man from a different company who was interested in coming on in the capacity of revenue targets. And I basically offered Scott the same deal that I had on the table, and he took it. So he was working with me for the last year and 4 months, and that obviously came from our connection at Moet Hennessy. He has stepped away now because he's got so much other work, and everything I've learned from him, I've learned so much from a commercial point of view in terms of distributor negotiations. He got us in the door with Endeavour Group to, you know, roll out into Dan Murphy's within the first 7 months of having the product in store. So I've learned things from him that I'll take with me forever.
Yeah, it's so good. How do you deal with challenges in your business? Obviously, as an entrepreneur, we're putting out fires just all the time.
That is being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, just like extinguisher.
No, it is. It's just fires. That's all it is. You don't have a job. It's just putting out fires. Yeah.
How have you learned to like who do you vent to? Like, have you got is it your partner? Is there someone in the business? Is it like a mentor? Like when you're dealing with let's say problematic situations, what do you do?
So I've built a lot of grit and resilience, and I've learned to move through the shit, right? And I think if you get the biggest barrier to business is letting a problem become a full barrier that stops you from doing anything else. And I've learned to never let that happen to me. It did early days. Who I vent to, I'm really lucky. So my family, both my parents were lawyers. Dad moved into kind of more finance, entrepreneurial style jobs, and my sister's a lawyer. And you wouldn't believe it, but the biggest issues I've had have actually been legal related issues.
Okay.
So they've helped me a lot.
So good.
And they're so meticulous and they're so moral. And every time I structure an email, they make me structure it in a way that, you know, the head person at some company would be reading it. So we've got email trails of everything. Everything's by the book, by the board. But they are really – my partner's really amazing. He's like just the nicest guy going around. He's the man of the people. So he's just so supportive and just gets it. And I think if I didn't have him, I would really struggle. And it's really hard finding the right person to be in a relationship with. I've definitely been through my fair share of bad relationships.
Yeah.
And he's been the perfect person for this journey. It'd
be challenging if your partner's not supportive as an entrepreneur. That would be the worst.
Which I think is quite common, or they just cannot understand.
Yeah.
They can't understand why you're on your laptop late. They can't understand why you're venting about something at midnight before you're going to sleep. I'm running 5 different emails at the moment, and because I am the accounts person, and I create different emails for them. So like accounts@saltonic.com, that's me. But if people think it's Kathy Caldwell, that's the name I created for her. So I'm running all of these. I'm the purchaser. I'm all of it. So, and there's just stuff going on always. And if he couldn't deal with that, which I think would be really tough at times, sometimes I think, shit, like I must be really annoying because there's so much more going on in my life than his beautiful corporate job,
What about like switching off? So he probably gets home from work, wants to switch off, and you're probably like the switch is probably just on all day.
Yes.
How do you turn the switch off?
I'm really bad at turning the switch off, and everyone says that they need, phone-free time, technology-free zones. I'm really bad at implementing that.
Okay.
I'm really horrible. I think it's really unrealistic when you're in the growth stage of your business. I think if I was 5 years down the track, it might be a different story. But when you've got so much stuff that's happening that's new and exciting and needs your immediate attention, if you don't get it done, then you're just missing out on that opportunity. So I just get it done. So I'm pretty obsessive. I'll go to the end just to get it done. And I think I listened to something yesterday. Someone said, if you are so reliant on some kind of nighttime routine or morning routine, that can be a disservice to you, because if that routine's blown out, then suddenly, you're in shambles. Whereas if you have pure, I guess, motivation and ambition to rely on and not some kind of fake routine, then you'll always be able to move through.
Why do you think you are so motivated? Just like, what do you think's a bit of an introspective question, but like, what do you think's specifically driving you to win?
That's a really good question. I think there's no one that or anything that I'm competing against. It's definitely an internal thing. I also don't feel like I have anything to prove per se. I think it's a fire within me to prove something to myself, not to anyone else. I think it's I set myself it's a bit weird, but I always set myself these little challenges that I think are a little bit unrealistic just to see if I can do it. And it's like, and I never tell anyone about it, not even my partner, not even my parents, to see if I can do it. And it could be, pitching to someone that I never thought that I would get in front of, and I'll make sure that I get in front of them and I do it and I follow up. And that's a little tick for me. And I make these, and it eases the pain when I'm doing, TV speaking events or morning show or live TV, because I just set myself the challenge of absolutely nailing it. And then I go into a different mindset. That's a bit strange. It could be a bit woo-woo, but.
Those challenges, are they set like monthly, quarterly?
They're set quarterly.
Quarterly. What do you do for inspiration? Like whether it's improving product, whether it's just thinking about maybe new ideas, whether it's like, I don't know, entrepreneurs that you like, is there anything that you specifically do to stay inspired? My
inspiration is South Korea and Korean culture, obviously.
They got good skin.
Yes.
Very good skin.
Are you kidding? They look amazing.
Their skin is like porcelain.
There's a lot of plastic surgery and there's a lot of skin treatments and there's a lot of laser treatments, but their skincare complements it.
Next level.
Of course. I'm also really, really inspired by other founders in my network that I've had the opportunity to speak with and to connect with, and seeing what they're doing inspires me massively, like hugely. And we've created a beautiful female founder group within my network, and just people close to me, they inspire me.
That's sick.
And when they have their wins, I feel like I'm winning. It's really strange. I'm like the opposite of tall poppy syndrome. If I see my friend killing it, I am beside myself.
Stoked.
Like I feel the joy they feel.
Is that like a WhatsApp group or is it?
It's a WhatsApp group. We actually had a dinner last night as well at Apollo in Potts Point. It's delicious. Very yummy, Greek food. And one of the girls, she has this fashion tape. I already spoke about her. She has the glue.
Yes.
But she's just absolutely killing it. And every time I speak to her and she's done the next thing, I'm just like in awe.
Love it. Sophie, great to chat.
Thank you so much for having me.
Congrats on, I guess, what you're up to and just with the whole, new growth phase with the US.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's been fun.
Cheers.